Ready to go, Jay? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, and welcome to the Texas Department of License Regulation Advisory Board on Barbering. We have a lot of people in the house today. All right.
It's just for you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, no. It's for all of us. All right. Well, first order of business today, we would like to open the meeting with our roll call. Okay. Actually, I'm Ron Jemison Jr., and it is 107. Kim. Okay. Call the names. I want you to answer present, please. Mr. James Bowens.
Present.
Ms. Jenny Hatch.
Present.
Michelle Wacer.
Present.
Ronald Weathers.
Present.
All right. Before we move forward, I would like to do something a tad bit differently. And let's, since we have so many people in the house today, we want to take this time to let y'all know a little bit about us. All right, we're going to start with Mr. James Bowens. You can just tell the group about who you are. And
That wasn't on the script, was it?
No homework or nothing. So I'm James Bowens. I have a suite up in Round Rock, Texas. I've been in this area for about 7 years. Originally from Toledo, Ohio, and I lived in Michigan, Ypsilanti for a little bit. And now I'm here serving the board, so glad to be here.
thank you.
My name is Michelle Wasser. I am a licensed barber instructor as well as a licensed barber. I am the general manager for Finley's Barbershop here in Austin, and I've been on the board for about 4 years now.
Excellent. Ron Jemison Jr., presiding officer, owner of Franklin Barber School in Houston, Texas. Proud to be here.
I'm Jenny Hatch, and it's so nice to see you all here today. Thank you for coming. I actually live in Alpine, far west Texas. I've been a licensed barber for 22 years, and I'm a licensed instructor, and I have a shop out there in Alpine, and I don't know, happy to be here. Happy to see you guys.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ron Weathers. I too have been licensed for 22 years. I have a barbershop and a salon out in good old DeSoto, Texas, right outside of Dallas.
Eagles.
New to the board, yeah. DeSoto Eagles, huh? New to the board, but very excited to be here. And I too am glad to see so many smiling faces. Definitely a beautiful bouquet of people.
Welcome, Mr. Weathers. We're glad to have you. Okay, at this point in time, I would like to, we have a lot going on today, so I would like to take this time to turn it over to our executive staff, Mr. Brian Francis.
Mr. Chairman, before we do that, I want to do one introduction of our commissioner, Commissioner Helen Collier from the Houston area. She's here joining us today. Sure.
Excellent.
Just a quick hi. Thanks so much for the new members joining the board. It's a commitment that, from the commission standpoint, that we appreciate you guys being here. It's a very important industry. It's always an honor for me to attend the board meetings. This is my first, but I have had the opportunity to visit some of the barbershops, and I'll be doing more of that as well as the schools as well. So thank you so much for being here.
No, thanks for coming, please.
Oh, absolutely.
Awesome.
Mr. Chairman, board members, I'm Brian Francis, Executive Director with TDLR. The Kleenex are in the back, and if you just want to just cry and snot on your shirt, that's okay as well. I see my dear friend who's going to be honored today trying to compose herself. You don't have to. You don't have to. It's okay. So, Mr. Chairman, we're on the agenda item to honor Linda Connor for her service. And so if you will bear with us and also join with us, we've got a few things that we want to do for her. So the first thing I'd like to do is to bring up the chairman at the time that appointed Linda Connor to the advisory board. So I want to bring up Frank Denton to say just a few words. Thank you.
For those employees who were here when I was chairman, you would think Brian would be smarter than to hand me a microphone early in a program. By the time I was here as chairman for 12 years, and when I left,
they waited to the end of the program to give it to me so everyone could get up and leave. So, you know, I am honored to be here to honor Linda and her years of service on the advisory board. And I wanted to share with the group a few of the things and the qualities. As chairman, we get to select advisory boards, we get to appoint the chair. And I want to share with you a little insight as to what we look for when we appoint advisory board members as well as a chair of an advisory board. And I want to do that because Linda exemplifies all the traits that we look for in a chair of an organization. The first thing we look for is passion. A passion for her industry, a passion for her purpose and what her goals are. And that comes with some baggage, because Linda could be a pain in the ass. And she was on a regular and reoccurring basis early in her appointment. But in saying that, I can say that because I look at that as an attribute. That is demonstration of her passion that she has for getting the job done. And with any passionate people, they become frustrated when it doesn't happen the way they want it to happen on a time frame that they want it to happen. And if I had any advisory board member or any chair of an advisory board that wasn't constantly nipping at us to get the job done, I would say I made a mistake in making that appointment. So Linda, you didn't fall short on that one. The second thing we look at is intellect. And when I say intellect, I don't mean just the education and the training and the background of that individual, because all of us know a lot of really smart people that can't get anything done. But Linda has a brand of intellect that she not only has the training and the education and the background, she is capable to adapt and has proven over the years of her service that she can adapt to something that doesn't necessarily fit the format that she would like it to be. But yet she has got an ability that we look for, that she can adjust and adapt her style to get things done that she wants done. And Linda, you get an A+ on that also. The third and final thing, and certainly not least important, is we look for an individual with a servant's heart, as taught in a New Testament. And Linda has a servant's heart. She has a willingness and ability to serve her fellow man, and she has done that with honor and dignity during her entire tenure. And Linda, just on behalf of me, one of the has-beens, who was here for 12 years, and for you were here the entire time that I was here pretty well, I want to thank you personally for making my job so easy, and to assure you that from my perspective, you got an A+ on all three of those qualities that we look for in a chair. So thank you, Linda, and thank you for letting me be a part of your special day today. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, Chairman Denton reminded me that we need to adjourn, given his profanity. We need that break in the meeting. So if you could adjourn the meeting real quick in this moment here, and we'll take it back up. And I'm joking, Frank, those words were passionate, and they were on point. And they reminded me, though, I made a mistake there. That's right, that's right. That's right. It is describing a four-legged creature in that context. So, Mr. Chairman, at this point, what we'd like to do is to give the board members an opportunity just to say a few words to Linda, and then we'll go back into our regular items. We have a proclamation, we have a resolution, we have other things that we want to share with her, but we want to give the advisory board an opportunity.
This is Colleen, sorry. Did you really want to take a recess?
Yes.
And get us, okay.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, Presiding Officer, do you mind recessing us from this meeting to do the celebration?
Okay. All right.
Oh, you have to say.
Oh, We're going to take a short little recess. It
Thank
is
you very much.
now 1:16.
That is
p.m.
technically the coolest, smoothest.
We're going to call the meeting back to order. It is 10 minutes to 2, which is at 1:51 p.m. Okay. It's a wonderful presentation, staff. It's great. Thank you, board. Okay, the next order of business, we're going to do agenda item D, which is approval of minutes for the meeting of November 13th, 2017. Before we do that, hold on one second. I did want to say that we did have to excuse one of our board members. She had a prior engagement, Ms. Michelle Wacer. Okay? All right. So I think at this time, board, everyone's probably had a chance to look over the minutes. So if not, we could take a little minute.
I'll need just a minute.
All right.
I'm good.
As for motion,
I move that we approve the minutes as we've read them.
okay. Can I get a second?
I second.
Thank you.
We vote.
You want to vote to approve it?
Yes.
I call for a vote.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, that motion carries 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is item E, which is public comment. No. Public comment is any person wishing to address the advisory board should complete a public comment form, which are at the entry when you come in, and submit it to the program specialist. At this time, I do not have any. Does anybody like to do a public comment today? Okay. All right, well, thank you. I do want to take this time before we move to item F. I think we got maybe a couple of barber schools in here. If we do have any present, if the barber school can stand up and state the name of where you're from. Not the whole group, but just everybody. Maybe the director. Sir?
Stephon Taylor from Central Texas Barber College out of Harker Heights, Texas.
Okay, welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Welcome.
Thank you for being here.
And this is your group here?
Yes, sir.
All right, can they all stand for us? All right, give it up. Thank you guys for coming. Wonderful. Hope to see you again. Okay, at this time, we want to move to Agenda F, staff reports for licensing division report. Ms. Joyce Hennington.
Good afternoon. Chairman Rod B. Jemison Jr.,
Thank you.
welcome. And welcome to all the board members. And to our new member, and I can't see your last name, Mr. Weathers, welcome.
Thank you.
I'd also like to welcome all the students. Good to see you guys here. You can't hear me? Sorry. Okay, I have a few numbers for you today. First of all, I want to give you the total number of barber individual licenses who had applications fees waived for military reasons. From the year 2016 up until now, we have waived 28 licenses fees for military personnel or spouses. For Hurricane Harvey, the total number of barber licenses who had late fees waived were 156. Total number of barbershop licenses for which a late fee was waived, 18. Total number of barber individual license who had expiration dates extended for 60 days for Harvey, 467.
Wow.
Total number of barbershops for which Expiration days were extended for 60 days, 103. Total number both barber individual and barber shop licenses who got free license replacements during Harvey, 63. And the total number of barbers who got certification letter and transfer fees waived for Harvey was 4.
Okay.
TDLR did their best to accommodate the displaced barbers or whoever had difficulty during the catastrophe. Okay, I want to bring up something else. I hope I say this right. I almost gave the cosmetology board, I almost put them in the cardiac arrest this morning when I made this statement. Okay, in November, we decided to, well, TDLR decided to accept apprenticeship programs for out-of-state applicants. So I think that's going to be really good for the barbers and going to raise the barber number because there were quite a few barbers. I mean, barbers were always inquiring about the apprenticeship, us accepting people with apprenticeships. And this is for the Class A barber license only. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions, board? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce.
You did well.
Big-
So you got- Okay,
Let's go.
Customer Service Division.
Good afternoon, board members and chair. My name is Trey Seals. I'm the director of the Customer Service Division, and we'll be giving the report for today. First of all, just wanted to say that it's, first, welcome to the school from the Harker Heights area. That's amazing. It's awesome. Glad to see folks here to be involved in the process. Just want to say a couple things about customer service. Customer service has been part of the agency from the beginning and just had not been part of the actual reports. And about a year ago, someone mentioned, you know, customer service is doing quite a bit. We should probably allow them to tell their story. So that's how we're here. So at the beginning of the year, I've been introducing myself to each of the boards as they come up. And I want to also introduce Irma Mendoza. She's at the back of the room here with the staff, and she will be presenting reports on behalf of customer service in future meetings. And so just want to introduce you to her. So a little bit about the division. There are 52 of us, and we are hardworking. I don't know how, well, we'll give you some numbers here, and that'll bring it home, but 52 hardworking individuals, and we have heart. We feel is the way I describe it. We hear the stories on the other end of the line and by the emails and by our walk-ins with those customers who need our help. So we are there on the front line. Typically, the only experience many of our customers will have with the agency is through those phone calls, and we do receive a lot of them. We receive primarily phone calls, emails. We also serve customers through our walk-in area at our main lobby downtown. We also respond to our social media presences through Twitter, Facebook, Google reviews. We look at all of that, and we do keep very, very busy. We receive approximately 2,000 calls per day.
Wow.
Mondays and Tuesdays are our busiest days. We receive about 400 emails per day, and we received about a half a million contacts last year. So we do a lot, and we look at technology, we look at scheduling, we look at everything that we can do to get to those needs. We are open from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. by phone. We have been known to work overtime in the evenings. Folks come in early. If we see a lot of email at the end of the week, we'll come in on a Saturday to make sure that we get to those contacts. But as Mary, my esteemed colleague over here on the right, has stated, we are like the duck on the water. We look cool as we do it. We have fun. We laugh. We we deal with the stress as best we can, and we are there to make sure we take care of our customers. Currently, we have, we have English speakers, Spanish speakers, Vietnamese speakers, Mandarin speakers, Korean speakers at this time. So we are doing the best we can to get folks who can speak with those folks who need those languages to be answered in those languages. And so let's talk a little bit about statistics. For the barber industry, as you can see in your report there, it's pretty typical with most industries. You see a dip during the holidays. You will also notice that in this particular industry, most of our contacts are made by phone. And so that is the primary way that folks do like to reach out to us. But you also notice there is a bit of email as well. And we also do get walk-ins for this industry as well. And it's the general question about licenses, eligibility statuses, what can I do to transfer my license from another state? And so it's general questions. If there's anything specific, we'll get that off to one of our subject matter experts in the other divisions. That concludes my report today. It was a pleasure meeting you. I'm happy to entertain questions if you have them.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a comment.
No comments.
I have noticed how quickly responses come on social media and on Facebook. And I have mentioned to people who perhaps don't have time to call, or when there is a heavy phone call and there's something that I can't help or I can't send them someplace else to help, I tell them, if you get on Facebook, they're going to respond to you very, very quickly. And so you've done an amazing job with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone?
Trey, Mary
Yes.
Winston, and board, I want to give a shout out to our boss, Nick Voyanis. We all operate under his direction, and those Facebook responses, we have a team, Terry in the back, Michael Fickle, am I leaving anyone out? Josh? Did I say Terry? Yes, but they are on it, they're watchful of these comments, they want to make sure that they are responsive, and we appreciate them. We appreciate Nick's guidance with that. We meet weekly to make sure that we are on the pulse of requests that we get, so thank you for acknowledging
Oh,
that.
it's impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. It does take a team, and we all do work very closely
Thank
together.
you. Thank you. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Okay. Enforcement Division.
Board members, Mr. Trevor, I'm Chris Funderburg, attorney with the Enforcement Division, and I'll present the division's report today. After our last meeting, two individuals spoke with me about my presentation, then asked me the same question like a hapless victim in a horror movie I only recognized as ominous after the fact. How are you going to follow up the next time? Well,
Right.
I didn't have an answer. So now that I've had some time to prepare and then review the results, the answer is clear. I plan to follow it up by bombing, big time. I make a presentation with feeble attempts to entertain and educate. But end up embarrassing myself, my division, my family, my ancestry, past and future, just really go down in flames. It's like I tell my daughter over and over, nothing resets expectations quite like complete failure. I don't really do that.
Gotcha. My man.
Luckily for me, if Miss Connor's resignation has had any benefit, is that most of the attention is focused correctly on her expertise, ability, tenacity, how she steered the barbering profession in Texas towards an ever brighter future, and our appreciation for her selfless and tireless efforts. My hope is while all of that's going on, I can sneak in, dump some stats, and then get out before anyone wises up. And to that end, you should have enforcement's report of our activities within the barbering class. I'll start with the last page. These stats are based on data generated during a specific date range from September 1st, 2017 through the end of March 2018. As you can see, while the barbering profession continues to grow, it remains one of our smaller programs, number one in our hearts, though. You can see the differentiation in size in the stats. Of all the cases opened this year, about 5% for barbering, and of the cases closed, about 10%. Which again shows more cases closed than open. Go us. As far as penalties paid, barbers again demonstrate a level of responsibility that other licensees could do well to imitate, contributing almost 15% of the total. Next, I'll turn to the case summaries. As I've droned on about at previous meetings, we choose these cases to illustrate two aspects of enforcement activities. First, violations that we prioritize for prosecution, namely unlicensed activity and health threats to health and public safety. And second the second focus is how these violations are resolved. Now I'd like to repeat some information, and it's the same thing I say at every advisory board meeting, because I think it's important that everyone, including our licensees, hear it. Enforcement doesn't exist to punish. To the extent that we take punitive action, it's almost always as a means to achieve our primary function, which is to ensure compliance with the laws and rules. And I think that that prioritization is clear from the case summary that I've made. I won't belabor this too much, but I just wanted to kind of point to the methods of case resolution and also kind of some of the content of the cases themselves. The first of these cases before you, bar 14-14814, just exemplifies the negotiated settlement that we try to pursue in the cases like these. We could have gone for $5,000, but instead, for these unlicensed and sanitation violations, we pursued a lesser penalty. But now we have an agreement with the respondent that we can that will ensure its compliance into the future. Otherwise, that failure to comply is itself a violation. The other case, two cases, is we also in addition to individuals, we regulate schools. Both cases allege the same violation: failure to calculate the tuition refund correctly. We settled this case. We could have, I'm sure, litigated this and succeeded. However, we wouldn't have been able to get the tuition refund due to these students. With the agreement, the school comes into compliance and the students get their money back. The other cases are nothing new. I've been happy to answer any questions you might have or get information if I can't.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I have a question.
Sure.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go.
I'm just curious, are these incidences, are they from the random inspections, or are they from someone called in or emailed and reported this?
And I can speak to, typically, investigations are the primary, origin of tuition refund complaints, because frankly, we're not going to hear about tuition refund miscalculations until the student complains about it. Maybe those could be picked up during an during a periodic inspection of the schools, but typically our audits just find, I would call failures to properly record documentation. The tuition refund issues, those are generated from the students themselves. But if you take a look at the first case, that was actually the result of an inspection of a barber shop, which occurs on a semi-annual basis. So the distinction isn't always clear from the case summaries, but in general, if it's well, I don't even know if I can say that level of generality. It really just depends. I'd say the more serious allegations tend to arise from investigations.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I can add to it, Brian Francis, and Chris is right on point.
Please.
When you look at our agency and the programs that have an inspection component, whether it's towing, vehicle storage facilities, barber, cosmetology, used auto parts recyclers, now massage therapy, the majority of the complaints that come to the enforcement division will come as a result of the inspection process. But I do know that on some of these cases that are before you, there was a concern raised by some of the folks in El Paso, if my recollection serves me correctly, that there was a lot of unlicensed activity in maybe these 4 or 5 shops. And so enforcement from that concern did an investigation, they did a sweep, they did a sting, and they were able to generate that. So that was a little bit outside of the inspection cycle. Sometimes you have folks who try to run out the door, when the inspector comes in. Luckily, we were able to get Usain Bolt out of retirement, and so he's been able to catch a few of those outside the door. But in all seriousness, when you look at the inspection cycle, most of the complaints that we have will relate to that. But we do have consumer complaints, and then the students, we'll pick up some of those when we're doing our audits of the schools as well, from the inspection side of it as well. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that as I was re-watching the last meeting, I really enjoy all of the staff reports and appreciate them, but I did call staff in to watch your report, telling them that it was my favorite one.
Thank you. No, I do appreciate it. These flailings, I hope they're entertaining. I'll try to keep the quality of the material at the level it is. I can't really guarantee more than that.
That's all good.
We'll take it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, thanks. Good job.
Okay. Next will be, is that Education and Examination Division? Ms. Rebecca?
Good afternoon, Chair Jemison, welcome.
Good afternoon.
Advisory Board Member, Mr. Weathers, welcome to the family.
Thank you.
I like to call it a family because that's the atmosphere that we at TDLR like to project. And I also like to say that when I'm out and about, I try not to embarrass the family. So it's just something I stick to. My name is Rebecca Adamus. I am with the Education and Examination Division. I am your education liaison, and welcome to the Barbers students here today. I am your education liaison. If you ever need me to come out and visit and just kind of do a question and answer session with you folks, I'll be more than happy to. Just get with our office with a site visit request form, and we can spend some time together. I'd really love, enjoy that. I love the interaction with the students. I'd like to publicly acknowledge and thank all of the educators that have asked me to come out in the barbering industry in your schools and have a sit down and watch you work. It's very educational for myself to be able to see how your day-to-day operation works, as not in an inspection capacity, but I come out as the liaison just to see how you interact with your students, answer questions that your students may have, that they're maybe afraid to ask an inspector because they see the inspector as an authority figure, where I am, just kind of, an auntie or a tia or a sister or something, just to be there for them to ask the question where they're not going to get in trouble. And that's my role, is I'm here to help you stay in compliance. We've added some star talent to our team. Ms. Carnicia Penson.
Okay. All right, welcome.
She brings a wealth of knowledge with curriculum development, and I think she's going to just help all of us be a little more on our game with that. So we welcome her, and we're excited to have her with us. You'll see in your report that we've created a online tool where it's easier now, where before, if a school offered any type of curriculum, no one knew exactly who taught what. They could call customer service, and customer service would be like, well, we're not sure, you may need to Google the schools in your area. Well, now through the efforts of, kind of streamlining and being innovative, we've created a search engine to where our customer service team as well as the public can look and see who is offering what in their area. We're still in its, beginning stages, but we're working on, getting Shear's video up to kind of help everyone, because we want to be more visual so that you can see the steps on how to enroll a student. We created one that we showed this morning for the cosmetology group, and we were in the process of creating one for the barbering industry. We want to create a series of videos so that, yes, you have that Shear's manual to look through and guide you, but if you have someone there walking you through it as you're clicking through and you're listening to someone, which is my voice, I need to hire an agent, I really do. Walking you through the process, it's easier to be more visual than, okay, I'm going to read this, and if something doesn't correspond right, it may just throw you off. And it'll also be a helpful tool for new instructors, new school owners, to understand how Shear's works. Because if that's the big beast, is getting those reports right, so when the inspection process does occur, everything flows perfectly. You've got everybody's hours accounted for, and you don't have to hear from our enforcement division. Right. So that's all I have for you folks.
Very good.
If you have any questions.
Any questions from the board or comments?
No?
I know that's an awesome tool.
Yes.
That's going to be very helpful, and thank y'all for all your work.
Thank you.
Regulatory Program Management Division.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, board members. I am Lee Parham. I'm the Deputy Director of the Regulatory Program Management Division. It was nice meeting you in Houston, Mr. Chairman, at the Strategic Planning.
That's right.
We have a new name. We were the Compliance Division. Now we are the Regulatory Program Management Division. And with that said, we have some new leadership. David Gonzalez, he is our Division Director. David brings with him many years of management experience and oversight of basically all the programs. So we're happy to have David. Earlier this year, we shifted some of our programs and resources to provide better support throughout the agency. And now the barber, cosmetology, and massage therapy programs report directly to me. So it's been a few years since I was in front of this board because we started out together. But now we're back. We're back together. Okay, our outreach efforts and our projects, Elizabeth Perez and Marinella LaFleur attended the Image Expose trade show in November of last year in Dallas. In fact, the reason I'm up here giving this report is Marinella is in Houston at a trade show. Elizabeth, Marinella, and David Gonzalez participated in the PSI Barber Examination Review Committee. That was in February of this year. And all of the Examination Review Committee meetings have been held here in Austin. Elizabeth and Marinella will participate in the PSI Barber ERC exam reviews in June of this year, so next month. The next couple of bullets, you'll see some different names, and we reach out across other divisions to help us with the outreach efforts that we do. So Marinella and Don Vera, Don is in our enforcement division. They represented the agency at the Redken Distributor Association, RDA, beauty show in April. And what we do is we answer a lot of questions and provide a lot of information to the attendees. Marinella, Irma, and Keitha Chester. You know, Irma is with the Customer Service Division. They represented the agency at the Armstrong McCall Fashion Show in Galveston, April 29th through the 30th. And they provided a ton of information and answered a lot of questions. The information that we provide at these conferences and trade shows include license renewals, the agency's human trafficking initiative, continuing education requirements, and really any other assistance that we're asked for. And we also use Facebook and Twitter to let industry know that we're in attendance at these trade shows, and also to increase our interaction with the participants. Internally, as our division moves forward, Elizabeth and Marinella continue to assist enforcement, field inspections, the inspections group, licensing, and customer service with any questions that arise, no matter what it is that has to do with the particular industries. Okay, upcoming trade shows. The Image Expose, May 20th through 21st. It ends today in Houston. Like I mentioned earlier, that's where Marinella is. The Foundation for Advancement of Careers and Technical Education Conference, July 8th through the 12th. That's in Galveston. And the Texas Industrial Vocational Association, TIVA Conference. That's going to be July 15th through July 21st in Irving. And You know, I started out with the name of our new division and how we're moving forward. We're really excited about the future. Like I was saying, we have shifted around some resources and to better support the programs all across the agency. And we're just gearing up and we're ready for the future. And I'm actually happy about getting the barber program back.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
if you have any questions, I'll either attempt to answer them or get you the correct answer.
Okay. Thank you for that report. Any questions from the board or comments?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Field Operations Division?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Tanya Guthrow. I'm the Director of Field Inspections. With the recalibration, we had a few changes going on. One of them is the name of our division was changed from Field Operations to Field Inspections. Another change is that the school inspections moved from exams and education to our division. Our first item is the most common violations found during inspections, and I think it's important for me to point out that this is inspections for shops. And most of these here you can see are not all necessarily the type of violation that would make its way to enforcement. So if enforcement talks about their top violations, that does not mean that these two lists have to be the same. Sometimes we write violations that are those that just need to be corrected and are not going to result in any sort of report to enforcement. Our next item is for division projects. I wanted to talk about the prevention of human trafficking, which is a big issue for the agency and for the state. And we are working with the cosmetology program to distribute prevention of human trafficking signs. It recently has come up, though, that a number of barbershops hold dual licenses. So the industry should be aware that if they have a dual license, they also will be required to post the human trafficking prevention signs. The inspectors have those signs with them, and they're going to distribute them. It's not a violation to not have it up right now. We're going to be working with the industries to make sure that they're educated. Also wanted to point out a big project for us is mini salon roundups. This includes shops and dual shops as well. The total here is 2,863 inspections with 51 mini salon roundups. However, 257 of those were for barber shops that are in those salon galleries or dual barber shops that are listed in those salon galleries. Also, our inspector, Jeanette Devasté, went out with our new public information officer, Brenda Flores-Dollar, and our new communication specialist, Doug Van Pelt, to just go through some shops and make sure that they understand what the inspection process is like, make sure that they're educated so when they're talking to the public and communicating about things that go on at the agency, they're aware of cosmetology and barber inspections. I'd also like to welcome Sharon Hollins, who joined field inspections in the North Region on May 1st. She's a new inspector. She is a veteran and has experience with other state agencies. We're very happy to welcome her to our TDLR family. And I need to say goodbye to our South Region manager. Jennifer Harless accepted a new position as TDLR's Strategic Response Coordinator in the RPM division. In her new role, she's going to coordinate TDLR's efforts in combating human trafficking and also TDLR's response to emergencies and natural disasters. But luckily, we still get to work with her. And because of this change, we are interviewing and have actually working on hiring a replacement for Jennifer. And our next item is the inspections completed for the barber program. If you'll look at the very bottom line and all the way to your right, you'll see that so far this year we've completed 2,808 inspections, and we still have 5 months to go. So we're on track to do really well this year. I want to commend my staff. They've been working really hard, and they're trying to be innovative to do the most that we can do with our limited resources. They're doing a great job. And our last item is the inspection statistics for barber schools. It's a new item for us, and we'll just be sure to provide this information to the board whenever we get to meet with you guys again.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions right now?
Any questions from the board or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you don't want to wait until your inspector comes to your shop, is there another way to get one of the human trafficking information signs?
Absolutely. They are available on our website, and I know that they are available on the cosmetology page of TDLR's website, and they may be available in some other places as well.
You just download and print them?
You can download and print them if you'd like to. You can print them in color. There's 3 different options. There's some that have some pictures or photographs. There's others that are just in different languages. I believe it's in Vietnamese, Spanish, and English.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Did I understand you correctly? The dual salons, the barber and beauty, they have to?
Yes, if you hold a dual license, this requirement comes from the cosmetology law, and it's a recent change. So if a shop holds both a barber shop license and a cosmetology license, you are going to be required to do it. Of course, anyone's welcome to post the sign if they'd like to.
The barber shops alone, as of now, are
Not required at all.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis, just to follow up on your question on the sign, if you go to our webpage, on the far right column under agency initiatives, you'll see the different variations of the posters for the human
Thank you.
trafficking.
Thank you. Executive Office.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Francis, Executive Director with TDLR. We're going to give you the trifecta today. We've
Let's
got
do
a
it.
few folks that are going to be doing presentations. So first of all, I'll turn over to my commissioner, one of my 7 bosses, Commissioner Callier.
All right.
Welcome once again. I think I said a few words at the beginning, so I'm very appreciative of your service on the board here, and we'll definitely see you again. To the students that are here, I'm not sure if you realized what was taking place in the room here earlier, because I was screaming for you. Right, because it's 150 years plus worth of experience, not only from a barbering standpoint, but from a business standpoint. And that's huge. That's in this room. So thanks for being here. I look forward to joining Rebecca when she allows me to, because you guys are near Colleen, is that correct? Okay, all right. So I do get into Colleen often. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Callier. I'm going to have Nick do a presentation on some statistics that are really interesting for the program.
Mr. Chairman and board members, wanted to visit with you a little bit about outreach as it pertains to this program, and start off by talking about your website a little bit and some of the traffic numbers associated with the program. Numbers are really good. Over the last 6 months, the Barbers website had 86,157 page views. That comes out to an average of about 481 per day of folks that are doing that. A whopping 68% of the visitors that go to the website do so from a smartphone, another 4% from a tablet. So that's add those two, it's a 72% come from outside the traditional office setting in your profession. The remaining 28% access the site off a desktop computer. The top reasons for visiting your site, number 1 is online license renewals, followed by frequently asked questions, forms, exam information, and transferring your barber license from another state. Also want to remind you that we are active on social media with Facebook and Twitter, so feel free to access those sites to keep up with TDLR news and events. Also wanted to mention that we have a group of about 70,000 subscribers that receive various email blasts pertaining to this program. And if someone is not receiving those and would like to, simply go to the website and subscribe. Also wanted to mention that a staff member of ours who's been with us for a while is retiring soon, and that's Susan Stanford. I failed to mention this morning, but we have with us today her replacement, Brenda Flores-Dollar, who has joined our staff recently and is doing a bang-up job. We also added recently Doug Van Pelt, who designed those human trafficking signs and among other things around the office. So we're glad to have them working with Jeff Kopus and with our web crew, Michael Fickle and Terry Westrom and Josh Schroeder, to make up our communications efforts. So I appreciate them a lot, and if you have any questions, be glad to answer them.
Any questions? Comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to touch on a few things.
Please.
First of all, we had a really successful strategic planning process. You will always hear me describe it as a strategic planning process. Most organizations will develop a document, and they'll grab the thing and they'll put it on the shelf and they'll forget about it. That's not how we do it at TDLR. The first phase of the process was what we did, where the face-to-face groups, where we saw new board member Weathers, and Mr. Bowens was at one meeting, and Mr. Chairman, you were there as well. That's the face-to-face dialogue, but we also put the survey on the web page. We have it available through our Facebook page, and what that does, it results in a lot of participation. We had over 8,300 comments, recommendations of how we can get better. To put that in perspective, if you were married and your significant other told you 8,300 times, you can do this better, you're going to listen, particularly if you find some trends in there, something that you can really grab a hold of. So that's ongoing. What you're going to see over the next couple of weeks on the strategic planning process, those items that were either statutory, an information technology process recommendation, or a process improvement recommendation, those are the type of things that can make its way into our document. We're going to kind of go through and say, oh, we need to do a better job of X. But we also have a category of recommendations that fall in customer service. You need to do a better job of answering the phones. You do a great job of answering the phones. How come you don't have more technology? Why don't you send me a text message? All of those ideas are process improvement elements. We don't have to go to the legislature to fix those. You're also going to see a body of work over the next couple of meetings that deal with proposed rule changes. Things that are not in the law, but things that fall under our purview to look at to make things a little bit more streamlined. There were questions regarding the curriculum. At one of our presentations here in Austin, people were saying that, hey, there probably needs to be a little bit more contact between the student and the salons they're ultimately going to go work in. Can you guys carve out a little bit more time in the curriculum and the hours to provide for that? Those are things that will come before this group. They don't happen overnight, but they start the dialogue. Does strategic planning work here at TDLR? I will say very emphatically, yes, it does. It is very serious, and I want to share some numbers with you to reflect how serious it is. Board Member Hatch recalls the extensive conversations we had regarding we need to have more schools, particularly in the rural areas and in those smaller communities. How do we go about that? And so the first go-around, maybe 6 years ago, we talked about shrinking the square footage size for the school. In the Barber program, it said you had to have 2,800 square feet to open up a school. And that magic number was magic for people who already had a school of 2,800 square feet. So it worked perfectly for their world. We went to the session and we're like, do away with the square footage altogether. Wasn't well received. That's when I had a fro, now I don't. Had a little haircut on that. But we were able to shrink it down from 2,800 to 2,000 square feet. Well, what did that result in? Back then, we were sitting at 38 to 40 barber schools. When you look at your stats today, there's 86 barber schools. Wow. That's a direct result of that. Another idea that came through the strategic planning process years ago was how can we increase, if you're going to make more schools, we need to increase the number of instructors that are teaching in those schools. And so we created some alternative paths to come in. So instead of just having 1 year of experience and 750-hour course, we came up with different ways. If you had a degree in education, if you had 15 hours, semester hours in education, so we created these alternative paths for a person to become an instructor. Just on your data today from 2015, there were 323 barber instructors, and now there's 480. That comes through the strategic planning process. Your voice matters. You can make a difference when you throw an idea there we haven't heard about, or, man, that makes sense. That dog will hunt. Well, let's see what we can do with that. That's important stuff. What does it ultimately add up to? When the program first came to us, Barbering, back in '05, there were about 13,900 Class A barbers. And now we're sitting at 17,220. Some of that's growth, people moving in. Some of it's the change for getting more schools in place. Some of it's better teaching. All those things combined together, but we have more qualified barbers in Texas than we've ever had before. That's a big deal. That's part of the strategic planning process tying together. This go-around before the commission on Thursday of this week, we're going to go forward and ask them to consider about 4 items that would be included in the strategic plan. I'm going to get the first one out the way, so we can get the what? What? I can't. What? Did he just say that? Yes. We want to seek authorization. Let me back up. So the Barber Statute 1601, is that correct, Colleen? 1601?
Yes.
Okay, 1601 is the Barber Statute. And then you have 1603, that includes combined elements from the Barber and Cosmetology Statute. So the dual license is housed over in 1603. Elements that deal with the examination are housed in 1603. The mobile salons are housed in 1603. So you have those things that can be shared between the two. They're over there. There's a section that says for the practical examination, only TDLR or its authorized contracted partner can do the examinations on our behalf. We may, if my bosses agree, we may seek authorization to add qualified barber schools. That would allow an authorized barber school to do the practical examination on their premises on our behalf. What? I can't. What the? Come on, Brian. Yes, he just said that. Here's what it will do. This is the way I couch it. If we can trust the barber schools for the complete education of that student, then let's just go that one more inch and trust them that they can do the practical examination on our behalf. How they can be authorized? We'll probably look at criteria of having them trained by our third-party contractor, making sure that the education examination group walks them through how the practical examination is going to be delivered, how they report the results to us. All those things will come into play. But this is just moving us in line with other programs, other states that have this. The benefit, I believe, is it could lower the cost for the student. Instead of having to pay that $74 to go take the practical examination, maybe drive to a different city, because I don't think there's one in Harker Heights or Killeen that's available. So you don't have to drive to Austin, you don't have to drive X. So it could save that cost, and it can shrink the time that the person gets licensed. If I'm the students, I'd rather have my license today than tomorrow. I'd rather have it this morning than this afternoon. The quicker I can get my license, the quicker I can get in business, and I can start living the dream. I can start doing the things that I want to do. So that's one of the things we'll have before the commission. Another one is looking at the inspection cycle and trying to extend it. We have enough data now that shows us that the majority of the sanitation and health violations are going to reside in the shops that are doing manicurist work because they're breaking skin. So we've seen that differentiation. We are looking at, particularly for the cosmetology program, keeping the 2 inspections a year for the schools, having the 1-year inspection for the sanitation or the manicure shops, and then maybe extending the inspection cycle for 3 or 4 years for the other shops. Here's what we're looking at. Tanya's group has done an amazing job of doing inspections, but we can't keep the pace. We are never going to hire enough inspectors for this big state to keep up with that growing number of shops I just told you about, with the growing number of Texans that are coming in. So we can focus our resources on those high-risk health and sanitation areas. It extends the number of people we have to have. That's something we're looking at. Also, with the inheritance that we just received with the massage program, we took over on November 1st of last year, so we now regulate massage. So just like there is a need for having a dual license between a cosmetology and a barber shop, as some folks may have up here, there's also a need to have a dual license between a massage and a barber shop, because those services are being offered in the same place. Different license authority, different practitioner, but if we can save that business from having to pay $130 here and $106 here and combine that fee down to $104 or whatever the amount is, We've saved that business owner some costs. We've saved Tanya's group of costs because now they're not looking at doing inspections on 2 different intervals. They can go inspect at the same time in that facility. It allows us to be a little bit smarter and sharper as we move forward. So the first 3 things that you'll start seeing: legislative discussions, information technology discussions, and process improvement discussions. What's included in a process improvement discussion? And I don't just say this, Mr. Chairman, because you're here, but you offered one at the Houston meeting. And it was, hey, why don't y'all put, because that's how he talks, hey, why don't y'all put, like that. He said, hey, why don't y'all put barcodes or QR codes on the license for the barbers, the cosmetologists. Now your inspector can go click on it, see that the person's licensed properly. It goes straight to our database, as opposed to maybe there's some people out there who would try to doctor it, try to fudge on it a little bit. That's a great recommendation. We're exploring the possibility of doing that. The consumer can click on the QR code and see that this person's legitimately licensed. So it just gives a little bit more protection to the consumers. That's not something we're going to put in our strategic plan, but it's something that we're going to embrace and we're going to move forward with conceptually. Another idea that came out of the Austin discussion was the candidate information brochure, for the examination that you guys will be taking shortly. It lists everything you need to know. What's going to be on the practical, what's going to be on the written, what was the resource, how many questions, the percentage of questions on this, percentage of questions on why. And every now and then we will change the candidate information brochure. And we'll just tell you, it's changed, bam. But you don't know what the changes are. So I had one lady saying, when y'all make the change, I lay them down side by side, and I go line by line because I don't want to miss anything. And I appreciate her diligence. But we can save her some time by just simply having a one-pager that says, here are the changes that are included in this version. On page 5, we added an S because we didn't pluralize this element over here. On page 45, we added an additional site and location. And on page 22, the question types were changed to Y. We can do that. That's just, general things that we can provide through this process. Your group will be receiving information on all the rule recommendations. If you go to our webpage today, under that same section, strategic or agency initiatives, where we have the human trafficking sign, you will also see Your Voice Matters. And in that section there, it includes every comment that we received in Arlington, Houston, El Paso, Harlingen, am I missing one? In McAllen. Every comment we received in those locations, every comment that we receive online relating to the programs of what they would do to change the world if they were in our seat. That's your information. You gave it to us. It's not ours to hide. It's ours to stimulate some dialogue and some discussion. So I'm excited about that. Mr. Weathers came late. He came after the folks in Arlington fell in love with me. But early on in the meeting, they were not so enamored with my charm. But we got there. So I'm really excited about that. Mr. Chairman, just one more thing on the practical examination. Right now, if you look in your information and the reports are available online too. So you can see the same information that they have in front of them. We're sitting at about a 92% pass rate on the practical examination. Where the rubber meets the road is the written exam. I mean, that's where you guys are going to have to focus. I mean, it's about 43% pass rate on the written examination. When they're giving you the terminology, they're going through those technical terms. That's what's going to make you a barber or not. We love your skill, your ability to design, but if you can't clear that hurdle, of giving those words back in the way they're supposed to be, you're going to be frustrated. So pay as much attention as you are on the practical side as you are on the theory side. That's going to be the biggest hurdle you'll have to clear in order to become a barber. And I know, Stefan, I didn't get your last name? Taylor. I know Mr. Taylor can attest to that. That's where the rubber meets the road, and it's just how the process is set up. Mr. Chairman, I alluded to Commissioner Collier being one of my 7 bosses. I have 2 new bosses that will be attending their first commission meeting together this Thursday. Dr. Wesson, who is a retired dentist, and then we have Dr. Callis, who is out of the Beaumont area, who is an anesthesiologist. They both bring a lot of experience, and they bring a new, unique type of experience to our agency. We've not had doctors on our board before. We've had business persons and engineers and just dynamic speakers, but we haven't had a doctor, and I don't know if either one of them are dynamic speakers, but because they may be listening, they are the most dynamic speakers I have ever had to report to. Fantastic people, fantastic people. So that's going to be a new process, and just like any organization, Randy Nesbitt, who's over our Office of Innovation, talked about teams coming together. And he says that there's forming, storming, norming, and performing. And so the team has been formed by the governor. And now they're going to storm a little bit and figure out how that dynamic works, and then they'll have their norm, and then they'll start performing. And the same thing is true for you, Mr. Chairman, and I do that segue on purpose, that you're part of the new mix now. You and I share something very similar. Bill Koontz used to be in this role, and it was incredible shoes to fill, and I will never fill his shoes. So I made a decision that I was just going to lead as Brian Francis, because I've been here all my life. I'm just going to lead as Brian Francis and not try to be the person that was there before. We don't expect you to be Linda Connor. We expect you to be Ron Jemison. Just lead as you've always known how to live. It's going to be great. Mr. Chairman, I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Board have any questions or comments?
I have a comment.
Please.
I have a question, but you can go first.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it. Shoot.
The strategic planning meetings are amazing, and what I was really grateful for when I went to my first one was that, you know, I drove 6.5 hours to sit in this meeting and to talk, and I felt heard.
That's it.
TDLR hears you, and we hear you, and we appreciate anyone who's watching the meetings, anyone who's contacting, anyone who's giving us any comments. And what I request is that Rebecca would please record all of those comments on the thing, because I like audio, so I don't have to read through everyone's comments. Just record, just so I can hear your voice.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Could you do that for me?
We're going to work on it.
All right, that's all.
So when you mentioned schools being able to administer the test, and you also mentioned that there will be a savings because they won't have to pay you guys to administer the test. My question is, will it open up an avenue for schools to be able to tack on to their tuition because of adding another service?
You know there will. There will be some schools that do that, and that will be a choice they make, and it'll be a disappointing one, because they're already testing their students over the course of their education. But some will. Some will absolutely say, you know, you've already paid me $17,556. Now I'm going to add $74 to that. And that'll be a business decision that some will make.
Is that regulated at all? Or?
That fee will not be regulated. We do not touch the loans or the financing side of the equation.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Great question.
Mr. Chairman, two more things.
Yes, please.
Number one, Tamela has placed over there on the table, and she has set two versions of the human trafficking sign. So anyone feel free to grab the sign, but it's available for you to take. The color sign there, as well as just the text
Y'all
one.
awesome.
We try.
Y'all awesome, man.
We try, man. We try.
We even got color.
Watch it now. Watch it now.
All right.
And the last thing I wanted to say is that, Mr. Chairman and board members, this will be Tama's last meeting with you.
No.
We there's this guy. This guy, he's such a jerk. The executive director. I don't like the guy at all. Me. We had a retirement that's going to be coming up in August in our executive office, Kay. And so what we're doing is we're pulling Tamela back into the executive office to be our liaison for my 7 bosses. I trust her with my life and my career. So we'll have her be the liaison there. And so if you would just join me in just thanking Tam for the work that she's done for the board. She's a queen. Mr. Chairman,
Well, she will be missed.
She will.
She will be missed. But she's not too far away. Thank you for that report. I did want to say y'all do a great job, always, and on behalf of the board, we just want to say thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
I did have a question about the inspection cycle.
Okay.
I won't keep it too much, but I think you said, if I'm not mistaken, that it would extend that cycle for shops. Is that what we're talking about? We're talking about shops,
Yes.
right? Okay. So instead of like every, 2 years or 1 year, it would be
It could be
a
3
longer.
years or 4
3 or
years.
4.
We'll look at the incident rate for the violations. And this is something we're considering across the board. So
Gotcha.
maybe having the vehicle storage facility inspections going from once every 2 years to 3 years. Having the used auto part recycler inspections going from once every 2 years to 3 years. And it's just trying to recalibrate our resources so that we're really targeting those that really need it.
Okay.
We've learned some things with the massage program that we have on board. And one of the things that we've learned is that as the process has come to us and as we're evaluating it, it's basically treating every student, and I will touch on this as well for the massage, but it's treating every student as they had the potential for fraud, because we're looking at all the paper coming in. It's not the case. One of the things we're looking at doing with the massage program to address human trafficking awareness is that we realize the lessons we have from barbering and cosmetology. Today, we don't know who a student is in a massage school. We don't know how many hours they've completed, and we don't even know when they've took the examination. We literally are just as surprised as their mother is when the application comes, you're like, oh, we got a student. That opens up the potential for fraud. We want to at least ask the legislature to give us the ability to create a system that's very similar to the barbering program. Have a student permit for a massage applicant, have the schools required to report that data to us at least monthly, and then have us determine that they're eligible to sit for the examination. They sit for a national exam, and we never even know that they've reached out to them. That's just something that'll be a little different. And every program will start off being treated the same, but we may find out, and the board may say, man, the inspection cycle for barbering needs to stay what it is. But if we freed up on the cosmetology side, then we've got 31,000, maybe 5,000 additional dual shops that would have that extended cycle, and that may help us as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank
Any
you.
more comments or questions? All right. Thank you. Okay. We're going to move to item G, which is discussion and possible recommendations on work group report. I think myself and Jenny went on their report, right? On their group.
Education and Examination Committee? That's us.
Let's do it. All right.
So it's been really helpful getting comments. We have a committee of 2, so we don't know everything. So the more information that we get from resources, the more Colleen had comments at the last meeting that I was listening to, but I can tell you that what we heard about from the public comment as for the possibility of allowing or requiring candidates to perform services on mannequins for the practical exam was really helpful. Mr. Brown commented, he offered to demonstrate each of the services tested on a mannequin for our committee. And so we're planning on meeting in August and experiencing that, watching him perform each of those services so that we can see what it would be like for a candidate to perform services on a mannequin. And then we can decide on a recommendation after that. I also plan on going through all of those comments and seeing if I can find anything that's going to relate on the website from the strategic planning meeting. We also heard from Mrs. Simmons. I don't know which school she came from. She didn't say, but she had some really interesting points that echo what many barbers are concerned about with most rule change discussions, honestly. Mainly diluting the industry. I hear that term. And how incredibly important shaving is as the main point of difference between barbering and cosmetology. She mentioned that if performing a shave on a mannequin, some students may simply be going through the motions. Mr. Brown explained that allowing students to use mannequins instead of live models for the practical exam helps remove barriers and does not hinder the ability to assess students' competency in haircutting or shaving. The exam is only to assess minimum competency of candidates. It is not a demonstration of the art and integrity of the barbering industry. But I would like to bring up an idea for open discussion among the board members of a possible remedy to the problem of watering down or diminishing the industry. That is the idea of requiring or allowing a short internship in a licensed shop for students at the end of their training. 8 or 10 hours working under an experienced barber in the real world would also benefit those students in high school or junior college programs where models can be scarce sometimes. It's interesting to think that instructors need not have shop experience to be licensed to teach in schools. Perhaps some time with a professional barber would enrich the quality of students' education, concentrating rather than diluting the industry in the future. And I look forward to hearing from you guys what you think about that.
Anybody have any?
Well, I definitely think during the course of 1,500 hours in a school, some hours being dedicated to students actually going to a salon, a barbershop, and being a part of the day-to-day life of a barber. I think that's important. I think that'd be a great idea. Now, how would that squeeze into the whole apprenticeship thing? Maybe a couple of hundred hours out of 1,500 hours, you know, you could designate to
We'll
fit at a
discuss
shop.
it.
We can talk about it.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea, and I don't think that would dilute the industry at all. I think that would give you guys, the students, an actual opportunity to see how it would be, how it is actually to be a barber in the shop for a full day.
Thank
I
you.
don't think that would dilute.
Great comment.
I also agree because there's a lot of stuff that you learn in barber school. Well, let me take that back. There's a lot of things that happens in the actual barber shop that you won't learn in school. So it'll expose you to the reality of it. So I agree.
Y'all heard it first for some professional barbers, right? All right. So that will be open for discussion, and Jenny and I will continue to work on that work group.
And we appreciate any comments from the public. Well, we can't take them right now, but.
Okay.
I was just about to acknowledge that.
You can email me.
Mr. Taylor, and I'm just going to just kind of the process. At this point in time, it's a conversation of the board, but they're going to be available afterwards. My staff is going to reach out to you, so we'll make sure that any comments or ideas that you have, we'll be able to get to them at that point, okay?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. And again, I appreciate you being here.
So you're thinking that about 6 weeks is, you mentioned 200 hours, that would be an ideal?
I think so, and I think it'd be a good idea if, you know, even if we did 100 hours and they could do 25 hours and split it into 4 different shops maybe. Of course, that shop, I think it'd be important for that individual that they're learning from to be an instructor. Does that make sense?
We're gonna talk about it. Yeah.
I think that would make
Or to
sense.
have some kind of qualifications.
Have some kind of qualification similar to 5 years in the industry or something.
It's a great
10.
comment. It's a great comment.
There's a lot to unpack with this idea. I mean, it
It
could
is.
be anywhere from a day to 100 hours to 400 hours. I mean, it could be anything. We're just talking about it
Yeah,
openly.
you're right. It could, but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think the point is that, like Jenny and I were talking about in the public, was that we're opening it up.
Yeah.
So, you know, the future's here. Let's go with it. Let's go
And
with
we
it.
are, to be, especially to be a part of this industry back in the Texas Department of Barber Examiners, you know, back in them days, and to see now the vision and how innovative it's been, this is cool.
Well, also, back in the olden days, there were no schools, and you had to
Right.
apprentice under a barber. So it's not new, it's just that we haven't been doing it since we've had schools. In this state, other states, you can do the entire program under an apprenticeship program. But yeah, we need to talk about whether it would be something that would be required, whether it would be something that would be allowed as an alternative. I mean, it's just completely open, just idea right now.
Mr. Chairman, Brian France, Executive Director. I want to help my new member, Mr. Weathers, because I don't want his tires to be flattened when he leaves today. So what the concept we're at least talking about now within our statute, it's not apprenticeship. That's a completely different animal.
Okay.
But really what you're referring to is either internship or externship. Those are the things that allow you to kind of work under and through a school. But again, we're in the formative stages, so he did not say apprenticeship. People that are listening and watching, he's a good guy.
That's right.
I like him. He's got a vest. We're best friends today. So we work with this.
But that's exactly what I meant.
Yes, sir.
Getting baptized,
Externship
that's all.
or extern, not apprenticeship.
So, good job.
Stand corrected.
Good job. Okay. All right, well, let's move on to agenda letter H, recommendations for agenda items for the next advisory board meeting. See, I think that would be a good one to put on there, but anybody have any agenda items to put on for next meeting?
And Mr. Chairman, we can offer some over here for
Please.
staff
Please.
as we get closer to the
We had
meeting.
one.
But we're definitely going to have the staff reports. We'll have an opportunity maybe to go through some of the comments that have come through the strategic planning process, whether it's statutorily or some of the rule recommendations. So there'll be fodder for us to chew on. And then obviously, we can have the work groups that are meeting in between then to
Was
come
it
back.
some of the things that you mentioned earlier?
A couple of the ideas that may be on the strategic planning list,
Mm-hmm.
practical examination, we will have a final vote on that
Okay.
this Thursday. So practical examination, inspection cycles, dual license for barber and massage. I think those are three things you'll see.
Okay.
The other thing is that there's a number of rule discussion items that really kind of tie to what we were just talking about on the curriculum. How do you make it more literally practical for the student to get that practical experience inside the shop?
Right.
And just got to start that dialogue. Nothing's going to change overnight, but you
Okay.
start just having a conversation with that.
Do we, depending on when we meet too, we may have a recommendation on the mannequins for the practical exam?
Okay.
Great. At this time, is it possible for me to put on the agenda or to open up discussion for reformatting some of our work groups? 'Cause I think Ms. Connor
Absolutely.
was on some of the work groups. And so
Absolutely.
we'd have to add Mr. Ron on there as well.
Okay.
Okay.
We can do that, Mr.
So-
Chairman.
We'll do that as well. Okay, well, looks like we're going to discuss date and time for the next advisory board meeting.
Mr. Chairman, as you witnessed this morning, the first one in line gets the biggest piece of bread.
Yeah, I got bamboozled.
So
Run
we-
amok.
We would love for you to meet on October 1st in the afternoon.
Yes,
And
sir.
so the running joke in the morning. I'm sorry, in the morning. Did they do that?
In the morning, bro.
In the morning time.
Yeah, they got us at
I'm
9.
sorry, in the morning time. So the Cosmetology Commission, we tried to have the cosmetologists and the barbers meet on the same day. They met this morning, so they had first pick on the prime slot for,
Yes.
here's the day and here's the time. So, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, it would be awesome if the board could meet on October 1st.
If we all can
in the
agree
morning.
to meet on October 1st at 9 a.m.
It's okay with me.
Y'all good?
I agree.
All right.
Outstanding.
See how easy that was?
It's outstanding.
We good.
We have such a great chair.
Well, on that note, thank you, Ms. Hatch. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. Ms. Collier, thanks for visiting our school that day. It was wonderful to meet you that day. We had some great talks, and our students asked some very good questions, and I was very pleased for that. I hope your visit was just as good as our visit with you as well. Thank you. To the words and the encouragement and things that everybody has given me on the staff for today, I thank you for that. I thank those three in the middle. It's my family members over there. That's Dad right there. Hey, Mom. And right there in the middle, that's my wife right there. So, like, I wanted her to sit over there a little bit because she was kind of making me a little nervous. It's all good. It was great support. So, Miss J. Jr., so that's what they call her. But today is very special for me.
Hold together, man. Hold together. It's all good.
In 1969, my grandfather was nominated to first. And to be sitting in his shoes after 40-something years, it means a lot. So I didn't tell y'all a little bit about my history earlier, but our family's been in this business for 103 years. And so I have 4 generations of Jemisons that have come through this office. And to watch my father and to watch my mother do this feels good. Now I got to bring it back. All right, so we're going to adjourn this meeting. I think we got a lot of good stuff today. Future leaders, It's nothing but to do it, all right? $1,500, not that bad. It's all right, we all did it, okay? All right? To the staff back there, keep answering the phone calls for us, thank you. You're doing that work. Y'all do a great job. To everybody on the side, the executive team, thank you very much. Y'all make our job easy, and we're gonna keep leading this thing in a good way. Meeting is adjourned.